So we are talking about Battlefield 5. Michael, you were reviewing it. You've been playing a lot of it. I've been playing a decent amount. I don't know, like the more I play it, the more I think I actually do like it. I don't know how, you were kind of saying that today, even just coming in.
Yeah, I went into it playing, all right, I'm gonna knock out the war stories, and of course I'm gonna play a ton of Conquest, because Battlefield has always been built on Conquest mode. And then after doing that, I don't know, I wasn't feeling it at that point. The way maps are set up, they don't play well with Conquest, and I think that's my main takeaway from playing so much of that mode. But then when I play Grand Operations, this is where Battlefield starts to shine, I think, and this is where everyone should be spending their time in this game, because there's a lot to it, and it's a good way of highlighting what makes Battlefield a great series, because it's more focused. It emphasizes teamwork in a way that's not so overt. You just, by that nature of the way the modes are set up, the objectives and the maps, it forces you to be cooperative and have those great Battlefield moments where things are blowing up, but you're also getting kills, but you're dying also, and you're respawning, and you're trying to, it's this big tug of war. I think that's my favorite part of Battlefield 5.
Charges placed!
This game has two very different identities. It has the older Battlefield identity of larger maps and cool systems that attrition and fortifications work really well on, like aerodrome fortifications work really well, tanks work really well. Twisted Steel, like another example of really large map. And then the other half of this game, which I think is like the other 4 maps, are designed for close quarters infantry fans who like came in more around Battlefield 3 playing a lot of Op Metro. And when the player density gets that big, for the older players, the game kind of stops working in the way that you would want it to work. So like you start spawning in and dying immediately, getting shot in the back, or you build a fortification that just gets rocketed a half a second later.
Yes, you're in the middle of building it.
Yeah.
It's like, what's even the point of fortifying in Conquest?
You also get into the cycles though where you die and then you get revived and then you die and then you revive and then you get spit out somewhere else on the map facing the wrong direction and like get disoriented. Like Devastation's a good example of, I mean, I know that you really like some of the interior fights in the church, particularly because you know where the enemy team is.
Whoa, depends. No, don't put that on me, boy.
I don't know, there are sometimes with that, Devastation is with the church in the middle, right?
Yeah.
That's the one where I was playing like a few hours and I was like, I don't know what's going on in it.
I said that I get the way it's set up for certain modes, but I do not like that particular objective.
You do have a point, like with some of the maps being definitely catered to like close quarters. That's one map where like I'll do advanced search and I'll just remove it if I'm playing Conquest. Like there are a couple where I just refuse to play or I'll bounce out.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned the identity thing, I think I get what you're saying now, in that this goes into the way maps are designed. They're just like Narvik Conquest is too condensed. Like they try to do a lot in such a small space for 64 players, and I'm getting like crossfired from objectives all the way across the map, and I'm like, what the hell? Like it negates what you're supposed to be doing in Battlefield.
The feeling of accomplishment in a map, that you're like taking something and it means something. That's when the game's not working on those small maps. And again, maybe people who like small infantry focused stuff will like those. When the game is working on the larger maps like Twisted Steel, I will say that there's a lot of enjoyment around old school Battlefield vehicle combat. Like there's fast tanks and slow tanks. I mean, you're a big pilot. The airplanes are...
I'm conflicted. Like the vehicle game and definitely the airplane game, or combat game, has dropped for the series after 3. Like the moment in 4 where like you start off and you just are thrown right into a plane in midair was like one of the biggest letdowns for me I've ever had. Because I mean, since 1942, I've been like obsessed with flying, and here it's just another tick where like they just seem to forget what it is you're supposed to be doing in a plane.
Yeah, it definitely feels de-emphasized.
Yeah.
Like air combat and tanks somewhat to a degree, but especially airplanes, they feel like an afterthought at this point.
What's the biggest bummer for me, and this is where I was pretty pissed off about it. And like 3 also had that implementation where it was like, okay, you need some kind of progression for vehicles. That's fair. In 3, they rockets, right, which were probably the best thing about flying. Was like they're multi-purpose. You can use them in the air and you can use them on the ground. Like they're dope. That's like the last thing you unlock. That's fair. Like I'm still able to have an impact on the ground. Here, and this is what's so infuriating, is like if you go here, I got it pulled up, baby.
This fool, oh my god.
Dude, I'm all about it, but it's just, this is what's so frustrating is, you look at progression here. Oh, and by the way, like, I have to progress in two ways, right? One, there's Axis and Allied. No, dude, don't laugh.
This fool brought the receipts.
Yeah.
Dude, look at this though. If I'm in a fighter, right, I have to wait until I'm rank 3, which is actually, that's not too bad. Rank 3 for bombs, right? So currently, right now, I'm flying with just machine
guns,
guns.
yeah.
Just guns.
Yeah.
I can't do shit. If there are no other enemy planes flying around, it is pointless. And but here's the thing, I'm supposed to be getting experience. I'm supposed to be working towards something, but I can't get experience if all I'm doing is just waiting for an enemy plane. Hopefully I can shoot him down. You sure as hell like can't do anything on like an enemy tank.
We have taken objective Charlie.
So I think the good news is that the rock, paper, scissors approach, it's in the game, but it's not activated. It's not working, right? So it's supposed to be rock, paper, scissors. It's supposed to be tank beats infantry, airplane beats tank. And now it should be tank towing flat gun beats airplane, right? So all these systems are in the game, but you start with airplanes that can't see ground troops because there isn't currently a very good spotting system. They don't have the weapons to do it. So you don't have the tank, the rock, paper, scissors, like that's broken when you start. And then towing's kind of a mess because things that you tow are just scattered around the map and not really like well thought out. So yeah, it's like very simple, small things they could, and this game is gonna be going for a while, but if you just turn the turret around, right? Like the way the system is right now, you have to luck into a tank, then you have to go back up to a turret, then you have to tow it to where you think it's gonna be useful, then you have to unhinge it.
But turn it around,
Then
right?
turn it around, then do another U-turn and hope that like somebody gets what you're after.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like you have to be in the same mindset of like, it requires communication.
There's too many steps to
Yeah.
make that an effective thing, especially in Battlefield where like shit's popping off every second with how dense these maps are too. Even like Twisted Steel, which is one of the bigger maps, you're gonna get gunned down or you're gonna get attacked at any second. There's no time for that, really. At least I haven't seen an instance where that would make sense for me.
Yeah, I just feel like the vehicles in this series have been continually an afterthought. And that's not how most people play, I guess, but for me it's like one of the biggest parts about coming to this game, because it's the one thing that like really sets it apart from like Call of Duty, right? Is like vehicles, like a battlefield. The short of it is like there seems to be like such a thinning of progression where like you really have to spend a lot of time, and that's what number is dialing in my head. It's like this is going to be like maybe 10 hours, 20 hours to get the bombs, and then I can start actually helping my team. Otherwise, there is no drive.
And also the fact that you have to like luck into those vehicles when you spawn. It's the moments to actually use them effectively are so few and far between. So like tying vehicle progression in so many different directions feels a little like that's one area of the progression that I do not like at all.
I miss that. I miss the days of being able to spawn and like run into a plane and get off from a goddamn runway. Now I'm in a menu hitting my goddamn mouse clicker as like fast as I can so someone doesn't get it before me. They don't give a shit about vehicles anymore.
Thinking of progression is kind of an interesting point because Battlefield 5 seems to be playing the long game. So a lot of the content that they talked about originally is not going to be here until March. We'll be rolling out between now and March. So a lot of the next DLC of The Last Tiger is going to be a lot of the tank combat. So it's kind of, we're in a weird launch window where a lot of this stuff might be there within the next 3 months.
Yeah, that's another thing too, is that they're asking you to pay full price for one game. In my mind, it goes both ways because it's like, okay, I'll pay one price and I'm gonna get all this other content, but at the same time, the launch package it might feel like there's something missing there because they have, say, hey, December, we're gonna roll out this new stuff, we're gonna roll out this new mode or new maps, and then in March, we're gonna have Battle Royale. So it's kind of like, oh snap, like if I buy this game, like there's so much to look forward to.
Right.
Some people might be optimistic about that approach. Some people might be like, oh, I'm they're cheaping out on the launch package.
That was the fear from the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking between that because like I'm having fun with the launch package because of how much I like the ground game, how much I like Frontlines and Breakthrough, and how it's packaged into Grand Operations. Like I can play that mode for days,
Nice.
and I'm getting a lot out of it. So if I'm gonna shell out like $60 for this game and like Grand Operations and the modes packed within that are what I'm focusing on, and I'm just like pounding away on the ground game, then I'm satisfied with what's there. Now some people say like, oh well, Battlefield's been doing this for a long time already, like, well then what's new for it? And you know, if that's your concern, that's fair. For me, I just want like a really good packaged World War II game in the modern sense, and that's kind of what I'm getting out of this. So in that regard, I'm enjoying it, especially with those modes that are in Grand Operations where everything feels focused. It feels chaotic, but it's manageable.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, I'm getting a lot out of that.
Objective dog is now armed.
Does the game feel like it's there for you right now, or like how much further down the road does it need to get for it to feel like?
It really depends on what you want, and what I want out of the game is there now. You know, I can't speak for everyone, obviously, because there's so much stuff in Battlefield, like throughout the series, that there are a lot of players who seek out different things in the series. And for me, it's all about, you know, large-scale infantry combat, and that's there with the modes within Grand Operations. And Conquest, I don't know, I'm burnt out on Conquest, and even more so after playing all of these maps on Conquest. Like, I don't want to touch that mode no more. So I'm thankful that, you know, things like Frontlines and Breakthrough and Airborne and all packaged in the Grand Operations is there. Like, that's, I'm satisfied with having just that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, hearing you talk about the other modes that aren't Conquest, like, that seems to be just the most promising part.
Yes.
Like, Conquest just, it's evolved or devolved like over the years, right? Like it's currently, it feels like such a mess.
Yes, yeah. I think it boils down to the design philosophy. I think it's where like maybe they don't want players to feel like there's too many quiet moments in between, because when I think back to 1942, there's a lot of non-combat.
For sure.
Yeah, and so I think that now in the modern sense, it's like, hey, we need action happening all the time, and when that's the thing that you want to go for, it like just devolves into a carousel of flag captures and kills, and that's not fun for me.
No, you're totally right. And I miss those days of like, I would rather have that. I'd rather have like certain maps in Battlefield I think of where it's like, you die and you have to go to like an outpost and all the vehicles are gone. You're just like, well, guess I better walk. Like, gulp, here we go. Like 10 minutes of just walking from A to B. Like, I kind of miss that. Like
I've had one or two of those moments already actually in this game.
Yeah.
There's one or two maps where that happens. I'm really curious where this game is going to be in a couple months.
Me too.
You know, as you said, like it's a good kicking off point, and it's going to have content added over time. I will probably play a bit now and then wait for the new content to start rolling out, and jump into the big tank battle when it happens and wait for Firestorm.
Yeah.
Some of those other modes, see how they handle Rush. But if it feels like every other Battlefield game, it's like real messy at launch, and they kind of get it all together. They cobble it all together eventually.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So in that sense, it's not unusual for a Battlefield launch to be messy.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I think.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest takeaway is like, just, it's time to be patient with that game and see where it is, December, March, 2 years from now.
So.